Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Ann Ziola, and I'm the Executive Director of Alumni Engagement at Doane University. And our goals in the Doane Alumni Office are always to educate, engage, and empower alumni and friends. And so we are excited to have you join us for this webinar in our brand new professional and personal development program called Lifelong Tigers. This webinar will be recorded and shared on our webpage, and we are also live today on Facebook. So hello to everybody that is joining us via social media. Today, the Alumni Association is hosting a program called Strength Through Leadership and Effective Coaching, presented by Doane alum Victor Mcguire. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you are joining us through Zoom and you have any problems with connectivity, problems hearing, be sure and leave us a message in our chat box, and that's located at the very bottom of your screen on the Zoom toolbar. And our Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement, Mike Stellick, will be there to help you with those items. You can also chat with each other in the chat box about your own experiences on today's topics or questions that we might throw out there. But if you have any questions for Victor during the presentation, please be sure and type those into the question and answer box located in the Zoom toolbar. And we'll have time throughout the presentation and at the end to answer any of those questions. And we'll try to get to as many as we can. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Victor Mcguire. And Victor, you can go ahead and turn your camera on now. Victor graduated with his bachelor's degree from Doane in 1978, and he has acquired more than 30 years of teaching and leadership development experience in a variety of sectors, including secondary and higher education, high-tech companies, mental health nonprofits, and Fortune 100 businesses. And as a certified professional coach and certified strengths coach, Victor guides individuals in understanding their personal and professional strengths and fulfilling a sense of purpose and work-life balance. He also leads teams in aligning their practices with their mission and vision. Victor founded the nonprofit organization Coaching for Everyone with a mission designed to provide coaching and leadership services to traditionally under-resourced populations, particularly Black, Latinx, Indigenous young adults, K-12 educators, and nonprofit employees. So Victor, we are glad to have you today, and I will turn it over to you.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, my cursor is on the other monitor. So maybe when we switch screens, I'll have control of my cursor.
Yeah. That's the thing about doing things live. You just never know what's going to happen, and we can practice.
Exactly. I'm sorry for this.
You're fine. We can practice over and over, and there's always something that's going to pop up. So Victor, do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and how you found yourself to where you're at today?
Sure. I graduated from Doane, and as you know, in 78. And yeah, I taught in Lincoln for a couple years, and then went to graduate school, traveled a year Up With People, and did a variety of things in education as far as a principal, did work with schools in general, and then moved into the coaching and the leadership arena. All right, do we have a shared screen?
Yep, we can see things so far.
All right. So we are going to, the bulk of today's, webinar will be built off really a series of questions. And really what makes today work is your participation. Something that I call TQIF, thoughts, questions, ideas, and or feelings. And I think at any given moment, you have one of those. You have either a thought, a question, an idea, or a feeling. And, so when a point is made or when something resonates with you, share one of those four, and then I'll respond, and then we'll go from there. And so some of our learning objectives for today is to learn methods to enhance your leadership capabilities through effective coaching, understand the potency of power questions and powerful questions, and experience how coaching can be used to develop and attract and retain talented employees, and also to identify key needs and set goals and establish key action plans. Okay, so what are powerful questions? Well, powerful questions are basically a reflection of a committed listening and understanding the other person's perspective that is confirmed through paraphrasing. No real open-ended questions, and no hidden agenda. So with powerful questions, and why they work is they really communicate that you value and you believe in them. Okay, that's one. They elicit ideas and solutions and viewpoints that were not initially present. Now they nudge people in taking full responsibility for their situation, and they bring clarity. They bring clarity to the issue. So some of the first questions that you could think about in your team situation or your work environment, one of the first questions that I typically will start off with is, where are you? Where are you right now? What's on your mind? And with this question, you're not necessarily guiding them or telling them, but you are showing them that you trust them, and you're granting them sort of the autonomy to make a choice for themselves. I remember years ago, I learned something in the classroom scenario, and I used to start each and every one of my classes off with something called social comment. And I'd say, so what do you have in the way of social comment? And that would start off the class and basically saying, well, what's on your mind? What's going on? And then I would move, my next question that I would ask would be, and what else? What else is going on? What else is on your mind? And that just allows deeper thought in regards to what's actually happening at that moment. And then the next is what's the real, what's the real challenge for you? And so this question, it helps sort of slow down the rush into action. So often we want to solve problems right away. And this focuses on the real problem, not necessarily the first problem. And then we ask, well, what do you want? And where would you like to be? And this is pretty direct. The foundation to this question, and it's sort of a hard one to answer because people don't really know what they want, but it is direct and it has potential to pull people to the outcome. And once you see the destination, the journey can also, can often be cleared. So what do you want? Where would you like to be? Once again, coaching-like questions. And then, how can I help? How can I help? It even takes me back to that TV show. I think it's called New Amsterdam. And in New Amsterdam, the doctor, the main character in that, sometime throughout that TV show, he's going to ask the question, how can I help? And it's a power question. It's twofold. First, you're forcing sort of your colleague to make a direct and a clear request. By you asking them, how can I help? Well, you're asking them for a clear request. The question basically stops you from thinking that you know what's best to help, and it stops you from anticipating what it is that you need to do. Okay? And then another question, if you are saying no to this, what are you saying yes to? Once again, if you are saying no to this, you are asking people to commit to their yes. A yes is nothing without a no that gives it boundaries and form. Okay, so these are some of the questions. And then finally, I always ended up with, well, what resonated from our conversation? What resonated, what worked? And this allows me to get a little bit more clarity regarding what actually worked. All right, next I want to introduce you to the Standout Assessment. And this assessment is the next generation of strengths assessment. Standout, you might be familiar with the strength finders, which originated in Nebraska. And Marcus Buckingham, who created the Standout Assessment, was a co-author of Strengths Finders. And this is basically a situational judgment test. It measures you against 9 strength roles, and it reveals your top 2. It's designed to measure your comparative advantage, your input versus your impact. It's a pretty strong assessment. I have left this link here for you so that you can actually take the assessment for free. And this link is for you, and I think you'll find it pretty revealing. So I'm just going to give you a little brief overview in regarding the Standout Assessment, and go from there. All right, so one of the questions that are asked with strength and with strength finders and with Standout is, at work, do I have the chance to use my strengths every day? These are questions that we ask, and only 2 out of 10 people strongly agree with this. Only 2 out of 10. And what does that tell you? Do people even know what their strengths are? Imagine if they did know. How could they be fed? And what if you knew your assessment, and what if you knew the assessment and/or the strength roles of the people that you work with on a daily basis, or that you're in school with on a daily basis? A person will learn and grow most where he or she is already strong. If you take someone that is strong, I even look at, Go Big Red football. You look at every football team now has a strength coach. And so they recruit some of the strongest, biggest, best athletes out there. But they still have to make them stronger. And they will tend to grow. They will grow most where they are already strong. So there's decades of work and research around this, millions of employees, thousands of teams, and the data shows that when team members are able to use their strengths every day, the results speak for themselves. So as you are seeing people, and including yourself, for what you bring rather than what you lack, when you begin to see people from that perspective, then you're really beginning to look at their strength roles and the strengths that they bring. All right, so some of those standout roles are as follows. You might fall into the advisor category. An advisor would ask, what's the best thing to do? Or a connector might say, who or what can I connect with? A creator is going to be asking the question, what do I understand? An equalizer is going to be saying things like, what's the right thing to do? And if you fall into the influencer category, you'll be thinking, how can I move you to act? And the pioneer is looking to say, well, what's new? What's new with this? And then the last 3 roles, the provider is always asking initially, is everything okay? And the stimulator is around, how can I raise this energy? And the teacher is saying, what can they learn from this? So these roles will really help sharpen your edge as you use, the top two roles as a starting point for investigating what your strengths look like in the real world. Okay. And then once you have a greater grasp of what some of those strength roles are, um, we then look at the importance of a strength-based check-in and what a check-in is all about and what it's not about. And what a check-in, it's not really about feedback or what or past or weaknesses. A true check-in is really about, it's really about coaching and asking the how question and looking in the future and dealing with the strengths of who it is that you're working with. Okay. It's sort of like a laser-like meeting during which team members and team leaders connect on what's going on in the team members' world. It's a way to stay focused on your people and their priorities and to keep them on track. You begin to listen to their challenges and offer support when needed. They take place every week, 15 to 30 minutes. That's what a true check-in is. Now, here's some conversation prompts. One is you're really looking to focus in on the work, and you're asking them to get clear on this week's priorities. So you might even say, "Tell me about this week. What are your priorities? How can I help?" You're going to leverage their strengths and draw upon their unique skills. Um, you might ask the question, well, what are you looking forward to this week or not looking forward to? You're going to look to give them what they need, and you're going to close the meeting with agreements and timelines. And then finally, what do you need from me? And those are just some quick check-ins. It goes back to people don't necessarily, care what you know, but they want to know that you care. They want to know that you care. And just to give you a little bit, you would ask a little bit of what I'm up to, and we're going to talk just briefly about Coaching for Everyone. Coaching for Everyone is a nonprofit that I started with a mission to offer complimentary coaching and leadership support through traditionally underserved and under-resourced Latin, Black, and Latinx and Indigenous populations, with a focus on young adults, K-12 educators, nonprofit organizations. If you want to learn a little bit more about that, you can find us at coachingforeveryone.org. Okay. And once you have checked that out and it might resonate with you a little bit, a call to action is just refer a person of color who's a coach if you know of any out there. Or refer an ally that's not a person of color, but they still want to support our mission. Or you can apply to be a coach if you are a certified coach. And then you can submit contacts for different organizations that can help and support. But we're pretty excited about where we're going and where we've come from in the last 5 months of the start of this nonprofit. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an overview of how to look at coaching and the importance of checking in with your people and learning a little bit more about the Standout Assessment and how it can be supportive of you.
All right, Victor, thank you for sharing. There was a lot of good information in there and stuff that I wrote down too for our own team. And as you developed into a coach yourself, I'm guessing there were a lot of experiences that you had to draw from, either people in your life that were really good coaches that you wanted to emulate, or those that maybe lacked some of those skills. Are there any
Absolutely.
Any experiences you want to share about that from your own background?
Absolutely. There was I go back to my days at Doane, and I lived in Freeze Hall. I ran track for Fred Biley. I was in the education department with Lowell Dodd and Dr. Dudley, and then in the theater department with Charles Relsback. And all of these, I sort of stand on the shoulders of giants in my world at that time, because they really played a role, in a strong, significant role in offering guidance and support, and really showing me how leadership and the importance of caring about one really impacted my life. And so, absolutely, and that has continued throughout grad school. I was fortunate enough to be a Fulbright, and went to South Africa on a Fulbright scholarship, and traveled a year with a group called Up with People. After 2 years of teaching in Pius, but there's been people all along the way that have played key and significant roles in my leadership. Absolutely.
Sure. And you traveling the world, starting as a Fulbright student was just one of the times that you've decided to go out on an adventure. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about some of the other travels you've had?
Yes, absolutely. Well, the year on the road with Up with People was, I had already taught 2 years, and then um, I got accepted to Up with People in Lincoln, actually, and traveled that year. We stayed in over 100 host families and traveled all throughout the states in Europe. And if you're unfamiliar with Up with People, its mission is to build bridges of communication and understanding between all cultures of the world. We put together a 2-hour musical show. We also did a lot of service learning in each community that we stayed. We stayed with over 100 host families. So you were able to learn and grow, and from all the different families and the service that did. It was sort of like the Peace Corps with music. And it was an experience that definitely impacted my life and the world of teaching and education and leadership for me moving forward.
Right. And I'm guessing that you met, just staying at 100 different families locations, you met a lot of people, a lot of personalities, and a lot of different ways to work with people to bring out the best in others too. And I think that's what we'll find with some of the people that are joining us today in our audience, is that we have a lot of leaders, or those that are wanting to be leaders in their organization and are learning to coach different people, that might be in their own department or that will be reporting to them at some point during the line. So
Right.
any other tips or advice on how they might make that transition as they grow as a leader in their
Yeah.
own departments?
Well, if they can be, and if they're looking at being a little bit more coach-like, I really refer back to the um, the importance and the power of powerful questions, and really, um, you know, taking on the mindset of, are you speaking to be heard, or are you listening for understanding? And when you put yourself in a position where you are listening for understanding, you'll learn and you'll grow um, from the individuals that you're looking to make an impact with. So, and then checking in, the importance of, we just touched in a little bit with checking in, but man, just with checking in with people gives them the indication that you do really care and want to see their growth happen. And so the importance of checking in and really understanding the people that you're working with is just key.
That's great. And I'd like to give a shout out to our own Doane Masters of Arts in Management program too. That was a program that I took, the Leading Edge kind of sector of that. And if there's anybody here that is joining us today that would like to leave us in the chat message, if you were a product of that program as well, the coaching emphasis in our Masters of Arts in Management program was just unbelievable and truly life-changing for my own career. So the things that you're talking about today, Victor, are just so similar to some of the things that we're teaching our DONE students. And it helps me see that we are on the right path with that as well. So
Absolutely.
um, I sure appreciate you bringing that up. Well, I'll tell you what, everybody, we do have some time for questions right now. So just as a reminder, if you are joining us on Zoom, go ahead and take some time now to type in a question into the question and answer box at the bottom of your Zoom toolbar. Or if you're joining us from Facebook, leave us a question or a thought in the comments section. This is a really good time now to talk about any questions you might have in your own area of development or in your own career, or maybe a way that Victor can kind of put us in the right direction for you as well. So go ahead and take some time, write a question in the Q&A box or in the chat box, and we'll make sure to ask Victor those questions. But while our audience is writing questions, I wanted to make sure and thank you, Victor, for joining us today. You did a lot of great work when you were a student on campus, and whether that was in track or basketball or theater, now you've moved to all parts of the world and you're still exploring life, I think, probably every day. And it's just good to know that we can call on you for your expertise, and most of all, that you're willing to share your expertise with us. So thank you for being here virtually and for sharing your own experiences. We really appreciate that.
Absolutely, and it's always a thrill for me to go back to where it all started. You know, I was 19 years old when I hit the Doane campus, and it's Doane has always had a special place in my heart, and I really truly appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to spend this time.
You bet. Well, we do have a question that came in from Sarah Zolkowski, and she wants to know if you could share a story or two of some of your most difficult or successful coaching experiences,
Mhm.
maybe what you learned from those experiences, and how did
Yeah,
they change your work?
yeah. You know, um, there's one recent experience that happened that dealt with the individual really feeling as though um, they were either underqualified for their position and dealing with um, the um, the syndrome that and I just lost the word, but I forgot the word now. But the syndrome that says you are not as qualified for a particular role or a particular imposter syndrome. That's the word I was
Imposter
thinking of.
syndrome. That's what I was
Yeah,
just going to mention.
yeah, imposter syndrome, and um, and so we worked on that, and we spent a significant amount of time. But the beauty of that was for them to understand and to develop and to see um, as they utilize the strength-based assessment form of what their strengths were and what when they really zeroed in on their strength roles and what they were bringing to the table, um, it was just transformative because instead of focusing on what they felt they could not do, they really begin to focus on what was possible and what they could achieve. And once they got to that point, they just took off, and it was just extremely gratifying to observe that.
Great, great. Have you ever had the experiences where you have somebody that's just not willing to be coached, or not willing to break down some of those barriers?
Well, everyone has their time frame of when they're ready to look at um, look internally at some of the areas that they might want to look at. So we all have different time frames. We might even enter coaching thinking that we want to be coached and that we want to move the needle per se, but we might have some blind spots and we might have some areas. So does that happen? Yes. And I think what's key is, are you willing to push through? Is a no, or is a no not right now? But if you're willing to push through, then I think you might see the other side some success. But does that happen? Yes, absolutely, it does happen.
Yeah. So on their own time makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
We do have another comment and question that came in from Precious. And Precious, I think you were just spotlighted in the Lincoln Journal Star the other day. So we are glad that you are joining us here today. She says that she works with the TRIO Educational Talent Search. And the population that they serve is mainly students from first generation and low income backgrounds, promoting and encouraging them to apply for college and guiding them through that process. So any advice on how to coach that specific population, especially with all the challenges that COVID-19 has presented, and that might have
Mm,
created even more barriers for these students?
right. Well, a lot of these students are really some of the students that we even look to target in coaching for everyone. And what really makes a coaching scenario work is they're walking towards you as you're walking towards them. So one is, if they want to be coached, makes a difference. If they're presented with, this is what coaching is, and they're able to see the outcomes of what coaching is and what it brings, and if they look at that and they go, you know what, yes, um, I want this, then you can start that process. And I would start with powerful questions. Then you can start that process of um, of coaching and walking through the process of what is it that they need help for. But really, that first step is to see, are they really open to coaching, so that you're not trying to delve into a scenario where they might not be as receptive at that, at that given time.
Sure. Any positives and negatives with using Zoom now? Now that COVID-19 is here and we can't meet in person as much as we would like to, have you seen it be an easy transition to using the Zoom process with coaching, or has that made things more difficult?
No, actually, most of my clients were on Zoom even before, as
Sure.
opposed to face to face. So because I'm coaching clients, around the country. So I think what Zoom does is it does focus, allow you to focus directly without a lot of, I mean, there may be interruptions here or there may be tech issues um, here or there, but no, and if someone is ready to be coached, then it's up to the coach to set the scenario and to set the environment so he or she is ready to receive good, solid coaching.
Great, great. Well, it looks like we have covered all of our questions. So, Victor, is there anything else you'd like to cover before we wrap up today?
Oh, not at this time. Once again, I just really appreciate the grace in regards to the technology issue that we had initially. And I really appreciate the invite um, to Doane.
You bet. And if there's anything we've learned over the last 6 months, it's to offer as much grace to others and to ourselves that we possibly can. So we're just very happy that you were able to join us. We're very happy that our audience was able to join us today too. Just so everybody knows, this webinar has been recorded and will be shared online soon. And Victor, if you're okay with it, we might just share that PowerPoint with some of our guests too, so that they
Absolutely.
can get those links. We did share a link with you today in the chat section that helps you develop your strengths even more. And I wanted to let everybody know we're going to be a couple of weeks off from our Lifelong Tigers webinar series as homecoming approaches. But I really want to encourage you to take a look at some of the speakers that we have in store just starting next week. Francine Blythe Lewis was a student at our Lincoln campus and finished at our Creek campus, but she's going to be joining us to talk about her experiences with Indigenous storytelling. We also have Jim Beatty from the class of 70 that will be talking about his role with the first ever African American Golf Expo and Forum. And then Janet Jeffries, for those of you that know Janet, she's an archivist for Doane, and she's going to be back again to share more stories about the historical links between Doane and Crete and Nebraska. And so I just really encourage everybody to take a look at doane.edu/homecoming for more details. But thank you again for everyone for joining us today, and as always, go Doane.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.